Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine.
Welcome, everyone, to Morning Magazine for this August 3rd, 2022, 10:05 on the clock. You have your host, James J. Malouf here. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We have in studio with us the Wood County Sheriff's Department for the entire hour. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves here so the people know when I reference your name who I'm talking to. So we'll go down the line if you don't mind.
Okay, my name is Ted.
I need you to be a real close talker here, Ted, right into the mic.
My name is Ted Ashbeck. I work for the Wood County Sheriff's Department.
Good to see you again, Ted. Thanks for being here.
Nice being here.
And I believe Ted?
Yes, I'm also Ted Ashbeck. I'm a reserve deputy for the Wood County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you.
And also, Jeremy, want to introduce her?
Jeremy Keith, investigator with the Wood County Sheriff's Department.
Now, you two guys, I don't believe you've been with us before, have you?
I have, but
I thought so. It was a while ago, though. Yeah, it was with Carl,
So
right. I thought so.
It's been a minute, yeah.
And Ted Jr. here, you're a little newer to the force, right?
Yes, I started in March. So.
Okay. I'll tell you guys right now, it's going to be hard for you two to share a mic, so I think you guys are going to have to share that mic. And this is one of those times, probably the only time in life, it's okay to be a close talker. You get right into that mic.
Right.
Otherwise, don't worry about your volume. I'll take care of that. I do want to send a big thank you to our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media being here. We always appreciate seeing you guys and encourage you to like their YouTube page, subscribe to it, keep up to date on all things they're doing there. So we're here today to talk about a handful of things. Looking forward to it. We're going to spend the whole hour together. It's going to be fun. If it's not fun, we got to do it all over again. So you guys got to have a good time. I wanted to start off with National Night Out, actually. I wanted to kind of rewind for a second. Were any of you able to be a part of that? And did you hear how the event went?
I was not.
No? Okay. All right. Well, just hopefully it went well, and you know, it was certainly a big thing, a big deal throughout our country, and one of those days that I know Sheriff Becker and I like to highlight. I know any opportunity we can talk about building that bridge between community and law enforcement, we want to note on that. So just mentioning it, hopefully people had a good time with it too. So let's go ahead and dive into what we're some of the things we're here to talk about today. Ted Senior, I'm going to try to do that as much as I remember to. My dad, I'm the fourth James. So man, I feel your pain, Ted Jr. I feel it. Oh, you're the fourth too? All right. So we know exactly what we're talking about here.
Yep.
So I will try to be good about that. Ted 1 or 2 just doesn't work. Ted Jr., Ted Senior, that's what I'll try to stick with. But Ted, again, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I believe we were going to dive into a little bit about the jail and kind of update about that.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to ask right off? I mean,
None specific yet, but I think that'll come up organically as we're talking here.
okay. The program is basically they've come through for about the last 2+ years, going through all the research and everything to figure out what we had to do. So we got a lot of the community partners involved, a lot of the county board, other entities that we work with, and we kind of went through all the data that we could possibly go through. So we're starting to build, and
Yeah.
if you've been around the Sheriff's Department recently or the courthouse, you'll notice that they're doing some underground utility work and stuff like that. So this project is starting.
And Ted, again, I'm sorry if you can get a little closer to the mic when you're responding, because you got a great voice. I want them to hear you.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've noticed is that unlike normal years with construction season, it seems like we're always a step or two behind. Feels like this year, and just broadening the conversation to just construction in general, it does seem like things have been very on point this summer. In fact, some things have been even a little bit ahead of schedule. So with the jail, it sounds like everything is kind of lining up where it should be.
That is true. They have, they were going to put it out in 2 different bids, but what ended up happening is giving shortages of different construction materials and everything, to kind of lumped it all into one to try to get it all going so they can secure those items that they need for construction at the time. So it is going on schedule now, but it's always those days here, days there, and you're like,
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it's still happening.
Is there already things that we should be keeping an eye out for as far as people living in that area, or that may take a road to get to home or something like that might be blocked off soon? Are we at that stage yet?
Not quite at that stage. I know with the moving of the utilities, and they'll start taking some of those down, and I believe once all the bids come back in, they're looking the end of September, that the road right between us and the parking lot would then start to disappear.
Okay. And when we get closer to that, we'll certainly remind the audience. We'll be keeping you guys up to date on that stuff, just like we do with all road construction. The difference with this one, because I don't know about other people, but I love driving. Anytime there's a new road, I love getting on that road. Love driving on that road, see what it's like and the difference and everything. This is a little bit of a bigger thing, though, because this area, I would say that in the couple of years that I've been doing this show and talking to people about the jail and having a new jail, before we knew that it was actually going to be built and all that, I heard nothing but interesting feedback from people. I didn't get negative feedback. I got more along the lines of questions. And now those questions were answered. And, of course, now we're at the place where this is going to be finally built and everything. And now what I'm hearing from people is excitement about it. And I think that's kind of interesting that, people would be excited about a new jail being built. But where the interest... So I've asked follow-up questions about this. Why are you excited? What makes you interested about this? And I'm very proud to say that the overwhelming majority of answers all revolve around safety. All revolve around, you, our officers, having being safer in the jail, and people that are in the jail, the inmates and such, having a safer. It all revolved around that. I think that that's a good sign. I think that's encouraging, especially considering that it's hard to get people to care about that stuff sometimes. Causes are like this. We all, my relative is affected by said disease, so all of a sudden I care about said disease. We get that. That's human nature. Something like this, that's where it stands out so much to me. The people that I'm talking to aren't necessarily people who are looking to go visit the jail all the time and stuff, that kind of thing. It's more along people that we have a better understanding, I think, in 2022 of what it is to wear that badge. I believe that more and more we're starting to learn that it's creating more of an empathy from our society. I also think that there's something to be said for accountability, because I've talked with Sheriff Becker about this almost since the first conversation we had. There's nobody who dislikes bad cops or bad policing more than good police officers. Mm-hmm. Make your job that much harder. And with that transparency, that owning things, that kind of a understanding, the community, the society is answering that call. They're showing up to that. They're like, well, okay, they get it. For too long, there wasn't a communication there. Where of the understanding of, hey, we don't like that any more than you guys like it, and that kind of thing. So the accountability factor, I think, has added to this empathy, and all of this coming together to where we have a new jail, and people are actually talking about it and like kind of excited, like it's a mall or something like that. Have you guys felt any of that?
Well, a little bit, yes. Some people have asked me. I've had nobody ask me or say anything negative about anything, and it does come back around where the safety was one of their main concerns, or one of their thoughts that we needed to be looking at in the first place. And, honestly, we've been talking about this for such a long time, and that was always one of the key elements of it all. And, well, safer for us, safer for everybody involved, safer for all the people that we're housing, because if you can't see them, you can't help them, you can't intervene at that moment when you should be able to. And that's really kind of the whole safe things for them.
Yeah.
That and having more of the spaces to give them more of the counseling and training and programming that they would need to try to help them, as opposed to just holding on to them for a little bit of time and sending them back on the street and hoping for the best. Now we'll try to do something about it, make it safer for them when they return.
Well said. And we've talked about the economic impact this has, having to send inmates to other cities and things, all of this stuff we've talked about endlessly. But we'll be touching on it more, I think, as we get closer to the construction and that. Just thought it was really noteworthy, the homework I did over the weekend talking to people about the jail. And the feedback, I honestly did not expect that kind of feedback. I expected more questions and more concerns or that. That really wasn't there. It was more of the other side of things. Just, okay, we again, I think the transparency, even with a conversation like this, if people want to know things about the jail, you can look it online. You can find the information. It's right there. It's accessible. We know what the design is going to look like and why this is being done. And I think that a lot of other fields could learn a lot from law enforcement, not only with the transparency part, but with how you guys do social media, because nobody does social media better than police departments and sheriff departments and all this and everything. The videos go viral right away. They're exciting. They're fun. People like them and stuff. So I think those two things are interesting. Something else interesting that Sheriff Becker brought up to me in notes when he told me you guys were going to be coming in that I thought was kind of noteworthy. There's something to be said for the family business, and being able to take into the family business. It's something that relatives love to hand down. It's a tried and true American tradition, really a world tradition, really something that human beings have been doing for a long time. We don't see it very often in law enforcement. At least I have not seen it much. And looking at the stats, you don't see a lot of it. It's difficult. I imagine. I would like to dive into that with you guys for a second, if you don't mind. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot here a little bit. But, of course, Mr. Ashbeck, Ted Sr. here, our jail captain, and that, and you've got Ted Jr. here, who just joined the force. Is that correct, Ted? You've been on, how long you been on the force?
Yeah, so I'm technically not quite on the force. I'm a reserve deputy. That's kind of like their summer program. I'm pre-academy yet, so I have not been certified as a police officer, but as an opportunity to gain more experience and to kind of get my foot in the door, so to say. I started as a reserve program that's actually headed by Jeremy Keith here.
Right on, and I can't wait to talk to you about that, Jeremy. Ted Sr., how long have you been in law enforcement?
This will be my 26th year.
So, Ted, you've grown up with this in your life. You know,
life, yeah.
One of your oldest memories probably is your dad putting on that badge.
Yep.
A lot of kids that grow up seeing that grow up. I mean, I imagine that you, as a child, worry for your father. I worried about my dad, and he had nothing like that going on. We all do that as kids. You grow up, you see that, and you. At what age do you see or start having the idea of maybe I want to do this?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Like I said, and like you mentioned too, I've been around it my entire life. It's something I guess to just idolize my dad over. It's like I've been around it for so long, him coming home in a squad car and me letting me sit on the seat, pretend to drive, the kind of thing, use the lights and sirens and stuff like that. It's kind of a cool experience, and I don't know. I just, from an early on age, I just knew I wanted to do this.
I think that's awesome. It's really powerful, actually, because this isn't your everyday job. This isn't your everyday family business. This is, we talk about this a lot with farming, how important it is, young people taking up the farm for the family and stuff, and for obvious reasons. But seeing more of this would be a really cool thing to see, of this lineage kind of thing. And I should reference that locally here, I think we have a number of examples of this kind of thing. I was thinking more nationally that we don't see it that up, but certainly locally here we have seen this before. And I think that says a lot, not only about you, Ted Sr., but the Sheriff's Department, the police departments where this happens. You're not going to want your son to work somewhere you don't want to work.
This is true.
So he's there. To me, that shows a good sign of things.
And that about the community itself.
Well said, yes.
Yeah, I was going to mention that when you were talking before. I think we've been fortunate here. You're talking about the positive feedback. In my time here, I think our community has always been very supportive of us. So I think as a department, we're fortunate, and that's one of the things, with, like Ted brought up the social media review did. Sean's really leaned into that to kind of embrace the partnership with the community, to kind of help that grow, I guess. So I think in general, I'm appreciative of our community for, just the support. So
it's we know something about that here at this station with the changes we have had and the support we have seen with those changes. I mean, this community is so good about that. This community will also let you know when they don't like something.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm cool with that too.
Yep.
You take the good and the bad. There is no. It's just feedback. It's not good or bad. It's just feedback. We love it and appreciate that out of this community. I know that's. I don't think all these things you can have one without the other. I think they all tie together, and it's part of the reason why we have such a strong community.
If they don't give us the feedback, we don't know we're doing something they don't like.
Yeah.
So,
coming back to things with you, Ted, here, it's one thing for Ted Jr. growing up, seeing you every day going to the job. Every time you leave the house, you don't know what your day is going to entail, and how the stress of that and the concern of that. Then you flip that, and as a parent, your son comes to you and says, "Dad, I want to be like you. I want to do this." I don't know how that goes over, and all the different emotions and different things you got to feel in that situation, because you know better than anybody what it is to put that badge on, what it is to be a deputy and everything. So what do you think when he comes to you with that?
Well, it was his decision. I kept going, Paul, you could be an attorney.
Yeah, right.
Why not? Not everybody needs an attorney in the family, right? But it was a proud moment for me too, because he's been involved in all the good, the bad. I tried not to bring the bad home, which of course you have to be able to turn that switch on and off. Sometimes you can't find that switch depending on what you just been through, and it's good that he sees that the positive things that come out of that, and it really is. I mean, that's why I continue to do it, is because you never knew what your day was going to be, so it was an unknown as well, but you knew you weren't going to have to do the same thing every day. So anybody that tells you in law enforcement, it's like, oh, it's rinse and repeat. No, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You should be looking for something. And that's what makes that whole day different and better and gives you the opportunity to meet people and help people.
I imagine that when you're thinking about him joining the force and these early days of this kind of thing where you're able to do this, there's a lot of things thoughts that ran through your head. Has there been anything that has come up that you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. I'm really glad we got to experience that together. I'll ask this to either one of you guys. Is there anything happen that you're like, wow, oh, that was cool, that kind of thing?
Well, you got to share our first stories, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this. I'm like, oh, I got to do that on my first year days too. It's kind of neat when you get that connection. Because prior to that, I mean, really, you don't have those connections unless you are in a family business, that is. But this is not our business.
Yeah,
this is just something that we want to do.
Yeah, and as anybody that has run into or knows anything, a good officer or any of these things, you know that it is more. It is not a job; it is a calling.
That's true.
It is something that pulls you in. I don't believe that good officers, good anybody in that field, choose that line of work. It chooses you. I didn't choose entertaining. I didn't choose acting or anything like that. It chose me. I did no decision in the process whatsoever. I had a passion. I had a love for something right away. I didn't choose that passion. I'm like, you know what? I want to choose that. Like, no, it chose me. I believe that more times than not, that's how real careers work, how real passions work. We don't, there's something in our DNA or something in our lives that happens to where this seems like the real thing for me. This seems like what I want to invest my life and time and passion into. To be able to do it to a field that is all about protection and care and giving back to their community and protecting their community, that is another level. It's one thing for me at 7 years old to say, hey, I see Robin Williams, I want to be an actor. That's all well and good and everything, but let's be honest, I ain't saving lives. What you guys do cannot be taken lightly. And it is something for you, Ted Jr., to want to do that with your career, with your life. That, especially after seeing it firsthand. That really says something. And not only about the community and all those things, which I agree with that it does. It says something about you, man. That's something. That's impressive, and I admire that. I wanted to talk with you, Jeremy, about the part-time program and kind of segueing from Ted Jr. here, because he is a part of that, correct?
Yep. Actually, all three of us.
Okay.
Ted and I, our first job was here with this program, and now with Teddy. The program's been around since 1980. There are many officers, especially in this area, but all over the state and even the country that started in this program. So it's just been the first law enforcement job for so many of us, hundreds of people. So when the opportunity came up, when my predecessor, mentor, was ready to, he was getting closer to retirement, he wanted to turn the program over to someone, and I was chosen for it because I've always wanted to be back part of, so that was one of the first things when I got hired here. I asked if there was some way I could contribute to the program because it meant a lot to me because it's how I got my start. And so it's an honor for me to be able to now try to be to the younger officers what Scott was for me when Scott and Mark were for me when I started. So
that's cool. What is do you have to take the program in order to be in the sheriff's department?
No, it's just this. I mean, like for Teddy's case, he went to college, got his degree. Then in Wisconsin, you need the 60 college credits or a college degree, and then you must complete the 720-hour recruit academy. So most of our officers that we hire for this program have the college part done. Some of them have completed the academy, some haven't. So like he'll be starting next week, right? Or Friday, okay. So and then once he finishes that in December, then we turn him loose on the world, and he can try to find a full-time job. So kind of go forth and prosper type of thing. But yeah. So yeah, it's the college credits and then the certification program, and we're just a good. We recruit from a lot of the local schools as far as Mid-State or Stevens Point to just get that first experience. I mean, you don't work a ton of hours, and we're careful with what we assign people, because we don't want to put anyone in a position to fail. Yeah. But it's a good thing for the resume, you know, kind of show yourself like, you know, I've got an aptitude for this, you know. So, which is how his dad and I used it, and now he's using it now. So
it sounds like a great way to, I don't want to say ease into the job.
Oh, absolutely.
But,
that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so because it does seem that way, and boy, with any field that it would be good to be able to do that with, it seems like your guys' field, it would be nice to be able to not just throw somebody in the deep end right away, be able to let them get their feet wet a little.
The most important thing with doing this job is just being able to communicate with people. You know, in the academy, he's going to learn all the skills, and when he gets hired full time, we'll teach him how to, you know, write tickets and use programs and stuff. But getting that early experience and just learning how to talk to people, you know, and I think that's the real beneficial thing. And we give them the opportunity while they're working here to work in multiple divisions within our department. You know, including the jail and our security services division, and you know, and I've always encouraged our new hires, because I started in the jail, to go in there, and that's perfect place to, you know, I mean, there's not a lot of our fans necessarily back there, so you know, you can go learn their perspective, learn to talk to them, and you know, see their people. You know, just learn you just got to talk to them like people, and not, you know, it's like, yeah, they're in there, they made a mistake, but communicate with them. Talking to you and I is easy, you know. So that's.
I don't want to go down another rabbit hole here or anything, but Jeremy, you just said something that I've heard Sheriff Becker talk about. I think I may have heard you say before, Ted. Treating people like people. It's something that I think stands out about our local law enforcement. Again, it's a case-by-case thing, and there are going to be examples that you can bring up of anything in life to outlier this. But I think overwhelmingly, majority overall, that is something that happens, that we see, you know, yeah, you mess up, you're in trouble, we got to do this here, we got a job to do, but I'm going to treat you like a human being.
Absolutely.
And maybe a better way to put that is treating people like a human being, even if they are not treating you that way, which we all know can be the case a lot of the time here. Nobody is necessarily, hands are clean on this one, as far as the criminal side of things. That being said, too, though, I think it's important to leave people with their dignity. Just because you committed a crime does not mean that we're going to throw you away for society. You know, you're never coming back. That's not the point of this whole thing. The point is you go in there, you learn from what you did, and you come out a better person, and don't be a knucklehead anymore. You know, and contribute to society. It loses its meaning if all we're doing is punishing people and pointing our finger at them and shaming them. Nobody learns from shame. You know, it can wake you up sometimes, but it is not going to keep you coming back to the book and learning. It's such a simple thing, but I see that. I can see that you guys, whoever trained you guys, whoever got this ball rolling, had a real effect on the sheriff's department, because I see it in almost anybody that Sheriff Becker brings in. This making eye contact, treating people like equals, I've been very honest with Sean about this. I have no doubt that any of you guys could look up my background and my history, my family's history. It ain't good. It's not great. But nobody has ever treated me with that. Nobody's ever looked at me that way. Nobody's ever approached me that way. And I think my dad could say even the same thing. I mean, that stuff was 20-some years ago. We've grown.
It's honestly, like, for us, it's irrelevant. It's just, it's not, it's, you know, I mean, what do we gain by it? You know, I mean,
it's just not common, though.
Right.
You know, I think around here we've gotten common to it, but overall in society, and I'll even say back in Chicago where we're from, it definitely ain't a common there.
Sure.
It means something and it stands out. And I think the more that we have of that in society, the more we create, again, that connection, that bridge between community and our law enforcement. I don't know about anybody. I love watching Westerns. I don't want to live in one. I have no interest in that.
Yep.
None.
Me too.
So what do we do then? Well, we've got to make this work. This is the best thing we got. This is the best system we have. We got to make this work. And it falls on everybody, not just law enforcement. It falls on us as a community as well to meet you guys halfway and for you guys to meet us halfway. And it's all about certainly want a safer, better society. For myself, the first thing I think of is kids.
Yep.
I would never want a child growing up to not think that they can't go on to an officer if they are in need, if they are in help. And these kind of things, it all leads up to that.
Well, that's even something as simple as, you know, you got you'll have that when and you might have experienced this in the parks. I know I have, when maybe a kid's misbehaving and you'll hear the parent say, I'm going to have them come arrest you. And we always ask, don't say that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You be the parent. I was like, we don't want them. We're not there to punish them. It was like,
Right.
if something does ever happen, we want them to run to us, not from us.
Yeah.
And it's 100%.
That's a good point to bring up.
100%.
That's really good to bring up. Yeah.
So,
We will take a quick commercial break right here. We'll come back and have some more conversation with the Wood County Sheriff's Department on Morning Magazine. This is WFHR, locally grown radio.
Good morning, and welcome back to the Morning Magazine. It's time for part 2.
Welcome back to Morning Magazine Part 2 for this August 3rd, 2022, 10:34 on the clock. Your host, James, here. We're joined by our Wood County Sheriff's Department, and we've been talking about a couple of fun topics today. I did want to, since I have you here, and again, we have Investigative Sergeant Jeremy Keith with us. Jeremy is not only in charge of the part-time program with the Sheriff's Department, but also does computer crimes. Before we get into the computer crimes things, I wanted to continue our conversation about the part-time program. Jeremy, you mentioned that you had gotten your start with this program.
Yep.
It's been around a while.
Yep.
How has the program changed over the years?
The biggest thing is the ability that we've allowed for our officers to work in other areas. When I started here, it was just we simply worked in the parks with a few extra assignments available. One of the things Sean did was now being able we'd let them work in the jail and transport and the security services division, so there's more availability for hours for them, but also varying experiences, which from my perspective, trying kind of looking at it as a mentor type thing, I think is great. Now that's why I always encourage them to do as many different things as you can. I go back to the jail. Like, you may not have an interest in starting in the jail, working in jail, whatever. I get that, but you don't. You can just go work shifts back there. I promise you, it's going to be beneficial to you eventually.
I know that any young actor I talk to, I encourage them to work on props, work behind the scenes, work, do sound,
Yep.
do editing,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
It's going to make you so much stronger on the stage.
I think having that experience, whether even inter-dispatch also is another great. It just, because they're so closely related to what you're going to do as a law enforcement officer, but it gives you a different perspective on things, and it also gives you an appreciation for, why isn't the dispatcher answering me on the radio, or why haven't they let me in from the Sally Port yet? Understanding that they've got other things going on also, and just so I think it really helps you become more of a rounded officer. Just makes you better at your job and get along better with people, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Ted Jr., what was it about this program that you wanted to made you decide I wanted to be a part of this?
Well, that's a good question. Like Jeremy was saying, there's a really good opportunity here compared to some other programs, auxiliary or reserve for that matter. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I unfortunately don't get an opportunity to work in the jail because of who my father is, but I have worked other assignments through, I've worked the Auburndale Music Festival, I've done all the park patrols and worked security in the front doors there at the courthouse. So I think just, the draw of the opportunity, like I had mentioned before, getting that experience and being able to talk to people, because like my dad had mentioned before too, you just never know what your day is going to consist of. So you could have nothing go on during your park patrol, you could be running back and forth and not have no idea where you're going next. So,
especially growing up with around this and everything, I imagine there's a lot of things that you knew and saw growing up that a lot of us didn't. But then there's still you think you know the job, and then you put the badge on for the first time and you're doing a program like this. Has that really helped you feel more prepared with all those things?
Yes, and a good touch on that. Like my dad has always told me things like, "Oh, this will do this," just be careful, look out for things like this. And you just kind of think about it, and you never really piece it together until you experience it firsthand. And it's like, okay, this is actually starting to make more sense.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the advice he's been giving me my entire life now that I've actually gone through it myself.
It's all coming. Now it's
coming
coming
full
in.
circle.
Yes.
Yes.
It also is, again, because the word that you brought up there, Jeremy, about mentor and mentoring, I think is something that gets a little lost in the shuffle of society sometimes. And certainly not everybody's going to have a dad in law enforcement necessarily, but having people, elder statesmen, if you will, people that have done the job for multiple years and everything, and having that as not only people that you can go to for questions, but really build your confidence with. Communication, I would think, is, as Sheriff Becker and many have told me, is one of the first, if not the biggest thing to get down on the job, what you guys do. But that also needs to be kind of pulled back with confidence and feeling strong in the position. And I don't say confidence as in like a rap artist going on an album and talking about how good he is at what he does. I mean just being confident and assured of who you are as a person and what you're doing is the right thing. Mm-hmm. I imagine that is something that takes time to build up. Having a mentor there can help young officers gain that sooner. It seems like. Is that the case?
Yeah, and that's why I always, when we do our annual training, is one of the things I always stress to them that it's a cliche, but literally there is no stupid question. I don't care how stupid you think the question is, I want you to ask me, rather than not know and then make a mistake. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm never going to belittle you or talk down to you. I'm going to, we'll just answer the question and move on. And, I want you... In with that, though, I think it helps the thought process on their part just to come to that, figure it out on their own. Maybe they know the answer but aren't sure, So now they ask and they kind of, like you say, get that confidence. They're like, I knew that. I guess I just got to trust myself more. But it's just encouraging that interaction. Mm-hmm. And so, 100%, the self-confidence is huge for a young officer, especially coming into a new environment. You're part-time. You've got all these veteran... the more jaded and cynical older guys, and just kind of help you get to fit in and, kind of learn what's going on. So
it sounds like it's definitely something, if there are people out there that are looking at getting into law enforcement, something to consider, look more into. Yeah,
it's just the college is the big, that's the 720 hours is definitely an undertaking, but a lot of times it's just, people just getting through the school, Obviously, from a career standpoint, if it's a law enforcement degree, that's going to kind of put you in an advantage, but it's not a requirement. Many bigger agencies actually want people with other psychology, sociology, language. They don't want people that went to school to be police officers. So maybe there's someone out there that went to school for sociology or whatever, and it just never went that direction. It's like, well, maybe this is a career for you. It gives you that. I love when I get people with life experience. And we get we get that from periodically. Usually one person a year that's maybe a little older than traditional, mm-hmm. but you can't replicate that life experience. And again, coming from maybe a different background, mm-hmm. Because again, at that core, it's just they know how to talk to people. Maybe they're ahead of that game. They might be behind on the law enforcement, but they're ahead of just knowing how to relate to people, or they've kind of been there, done that type of thing in life.
I know that one of the things I do with my students all the time, as far as acting goes, is acting looks like a certain way from the outside. Once you get inside the industry, you find out it's a job. And interning is a big deal. I encourage them to intern wherever they can, wherever they are, and get your foot in the entertainment door, but also understand what that world really looks like. Yep. And if it's something that you really do want to spend the next 30, 40 years of your life in. I don't want to call this program an internship by any means, but it does seem like you get a little of that too.
Yep, it's that. We also take interns. Also, we usually have at least one or two a year. We've always been open to that. But yes, like I said, we've had that where people exactly that where maybe they've come, maybe they're going to school in Point for say DNR, and then they work here and realize I don't want to work for the DNR. I want to do law enforcement, or the opposite of that, or just in general, we've had people just be like, I'm going to go back to school. If this isn't for me, I'm going to go back to school for computers. We had one guy, he was a good kid, don't fault him at all. He just, respect that he realized that I'm not going to be happy doing this.
Yeah.
So 100%, it's a perfect way. It's not a huge commitment. The requirements on our end aren't great, but it can really give you answers, give you some clarity. So
appreciate the conversation, you guys. Thanks for talking about that. Jeremy, I want to put you to work a little bit more here because you also, as I mentioned, are in charge of computer crimes.
Yep.
That is your department, if I got that correct.
Yep, that's my assignment. Yep.
Certainly, it is a topic that we talk about here at the station whenever scams come up or those kind of things. We like to warn our audience, keeping an eye out for that stuff. And while we may not know what the most current scam might be or what the one coming up might be, we do know that these cowards, and that is just my word I'm using for it, but these cowards...
I've called them worse.
Right on. They have... They're for any creativity you want to give them credit for, they're just as lazy as creative. So they tend to have this kind of way of doing things. The questions that they're going to ask or the type of email addresses they use, because a lot of this is cyber, and certainly you are on computer crimes.
Yep.
What are some red flags? What are some things that we can give people to look out for when it comes to this stuff?
Just kind of in general, I always tell people never trust an email. If you get an email, and especially if there's links in it, for those that are maybe a little more savvy, if you hover over a link, the address will actually preview it, and you can tell. Usually, some more savvy, you can tell right away that's not a good address. So I always encourage people, if PayPal emails you and says something's wrong with your account, go to the actual PayPal website or go find a phone number or contact that is good and reach out to them. It could be a perfectly legitimate email, but oftentimes it's not. And the link that you'll click on, it's not hard to replicate a website. It'll look like you're at PayPal. And next thing you know, you've re-entered your information. That's another big thing. If they're asking you to validate, Social Security number, date of birth, and all that, they don't. The companies don't need to do that. They have all of that. You should have passwords and maybe PIN numbers or secret questions or whatever, but they don't need to reevaluate or have you re-enter your information. If you do, we get a lot of phone scams where people, I'm sure I get them all the time. You get the stinking phone calls all the time, about your car's, I know it's kind of a meme now, but your car's extended warranty, or the IRS, they're coming after you. And so many people actually will end up calling these numbers back.
I got one from the IRS years ago. It was one of the first ones I saw. And it literally said, we need your information. And they asked for my Social Security number.
Right.
Like, the IRS was not, of all people in the world, it's my mom and dad and the IRS that know my Social Security number pretty well. I'm guessing that they don't need me to get them that information.
Exactly. And
it's definitely a red flag, some of these things.
And they ask, again, that's the verifying the information, but or they tell you they're putting a freeze on your Social Security number. That is not a thing. But oftentimes, you can put a freeze on your credit report, which is what we have them do when they, fall victim to some of this stuff, or because that'll prevent new accounts being opened in your name. But if you get to the point where you're talking to a person, whether they say they're from IRS or Microsoft or Yahoo, they pick a company. And then they'll tell you, somehow you got to pay them for something, whether it's services or you owe money. They'll always then, or almost universally, send you to Walmart, Walgreens to buy gift cards. And oftentimes, because of the cashiers at these places, they try to stop people, and people are scared. They think, so they'll ignore it and buy the gift cards. We've actually had some businesses that will tell people, well, no, we're not selling you these because you are being scammed. Nobody, no company, no government, and certainly no government entity, but nobody is taking payment in gift cards. If someone tells you you need to get a gift card to pay them, it's a scam. Unless you know that person, it's a scam. And even be careful with that if you know the person, because you get the fake Facebook accounts. Like I said, it's just a cesspool out there, and there's so many scams. We could sit here all week and talk about all the different variations. But payment and gift cards, it's a huge red flag. Or if they send you a check, or sometimes you just get a check in the mail with a letter, and they ask you to cash it and then tell you to keep X amount and send them the rest. Don't do that. Your bank is going to cash that check because you have an account there and you're in good standing. But once that check doesn't clear, the bank's taking their money back. So if you cash a $2,000 check with the bank, they're going to give you the money right away, and then you go buy the gift cards and send it on to the scammer. A week later, the check bounces, the bank takes the money back out of your account, and now your checking account's negative $2,000, and you're left sitting there. So the biggest thing to stress is know who you're talking to. We have had one locally. This pops up from time to time, but we have had recently someone calling people in this area saying they are a deputy or investigator with our department and calling to collect money for insurance or whatever. No, law enforcement does not do debt collection. We do have some things like with sheriff's sale, but we do not collect money for people. We're not. So,
no.
But you'll see that, or the phone call. Your son Teddy's in jail.
Oh yeah.
Like people on Facebook. You got your account wide open, and they see Teddy's down in Mexico, and then they call Ted 2 a.m. and say, oh, I got a bad connection. It's Teddy. I'm in jail. I need you to send me money. And next thing or a lot of times they'll target Grandma and Grandpa. It's like, well, I know he's in Mexico. Crap. Now they're sending money to Captain whoever at whatever department.
I want to. We got to get a commercial break in real quick, but I want to continue this conversation. So we'll do that when we come back. Morning Magazine here at WFHR. Welcome back to Morning Magazine here on WFHR, locally grown radio. Hope you guys are having a great one out there. Thanks so much for joining us here as we are spending the entire hour with Wood County Sheriff's Department. Been enjoying the conversation, speaking with Ted Ashbeck and Ted Ashbeck Jr. here, and Investigative Sergeant Jeremy Keith, where we have been talking a little bit about scams and that. And Jeremy, part of the reason I really wanted to get into this with you is certainly we know that the majority, well, if not the overwhelming majority of people that these cowards take advantage of are in our senior section. And when it comes to that, for one, these are people who have paid their dues. They worked, they earned every penny they got. They deserve to have it. And let's be honest, in 2022, they probably don't have what they expected to have when they got into this stage in life. It's so much more important that we get on these things and we kill these things off as quick as we can. One of the things that I've noticed, and even statistically you can look up and see, part of the reason these scammers, that these things still exist, is shaming people. And people feeling like, oh, nobody likes to get the wool covered over their eyes, and really leaning into that. And people feeling like, I don't want to let people know that I just gave up my life savings or something. So I think the more we destigmatize these things, the more we talk about them, the more we keep people informed about it and let people know, hey, this happens to brilliant people all the time. This happens to you think you know somebody's smart and everything, and then you hear they did this. That doesn't make you think that they're any less smart. It makes them human. These people are. I don't like to say that they're good at what they do,
well, they are.
But they are. They've mastered this cowardly art, if you will, and there's a lot of it out there. So the more we destigmatize these things, I think the more it'll help people coming forward when it does happen, and we get more information, more data to kind of kill these things off.
They have a tried and true script, and there's so many different scams, but most of them are very similar at their core. But they have a literal script they work off of, and they'll take people through step by step. And one of the things I always tell people, because it's a very common thing when I'm talking to someone that, I feel so stupid and whatever. They definitely prey on our elderly population, but I've had very young people no one's immune to it. Catch you on the wrong day, or maybe the email or the phone, whatever, it seems legit. They can mask phone numbers, so it looks like one coming from another. Again, some of them are very, very good at it. But I always encourage people, and I encourage people listening to this, tell people about this. Yeah. Spread it. It's like, it sucks. It's embarrassing. It happens. But tell your mom and dad, tell them what happened, or just tell them that you heard about it, what to look out for. So hopefully they won't fall, victim to it. it's I cannot encourage people more to just spread the word, and and if you have, because oftentimes we'll see that where someone like with mom and dad they're kind of helping them out with things, check in with your mom and dad especially if they're older, and just keep up on those things, and and tell them, hey, if you ever get in something like that, call me first. Don't call me afterwards. But it's like, if you get an email, this kind of goes back to the same thing with the reserves. Like, it's not a stupid question. Yeah. And we encourage people to call us for the same thing. I always tell people that is like, if you don't have that person in your life to rely to, call us. This is literally why you pay your taxes. I mean, it might be able to be solved over a telephone, where you could just be like, hey, I got this. Is this legitimate? And it might take you only a minute to be like someone to say, no, that's a scam. Don't do it. But that is literally why we're here. So,
and I will say too, if you've had this happen or you've been a part of something like this or whatever, you tend to be a little more keen-eyed for these things. And you've touched on some great stuff, Jeremy, and I just to reiterate some of these things, the email address, the sent email address, is such a red flag. Like, oftentimes, if I'm getting something from the IRS, it's going to be .gov. Yep. It's always going to be .gov. If anything is coming from the judicial system or anything like that.
I don't think the IRS does emails.
I don't think so either.
I'm pretty positive they only send by letter.
Right.
But we've had those spoofed also. So that's why I said always go, even if there's a phone number, you get a letter from the IRS and there's a phone number in it, go to irs.gov, find that number and call it, or verify it's the same. But I hate to be that way, but I mean, just don't trust it.
Well, and to wrap the conversation up too, I did want to hammer this home too, that I don't want people to just be afraid to go on their computer. I don't want people to be living in fear or anything like that. These are things that if you keep your eyes open, if you keep an eye out for, you can solve this yourself. You can, and we certainly encourage you to share the information if it happens to you, because that's how Jeremy and his team can do their job. The more information, the more data they have, the better they're able to attack these things. But as far as being afraid to go online or any of these things, it's just more of a caution, like you would do with anything. You love riding your bike, but you got to look both ways. You got to do all those things. It's the same thing with this. One of the things that bothers me the most, and this happened years ago, but was talking to one of our listeners who dealt with a bad scam, lost a lot of money, and she didn't want to go online anymore. So she wasn't able to keep up with her grandkids in Florida and stuff, and she was missing out on that because she was afraid to open up her computer. That should not be happening. They don't deserve to take that from you. These cowards, these people, they take enough from us. They don't deserve to take that as well. So while there is something to keep an eye out for and all that, it is something certainly to have your guard up a bit. I don't want people to be living afraid. I appreciate that so much of your tone and things that you've touched on here don't revolve around that. You're not screaming at people that be scared. No, it's not about that.
I know the FBI website, and I'm pretty sure IRS and also the FTC websites all have a wealth of information about current scams that are going on, what they're seeing, but also just like educational materials. And like the FTC has a lot of stuff that they'll send it to you for free if you ask them to, like with pamphlets, and has a lot of just information about various scam topics and red flags. And so, maybe someone wants to be educated themselves or educate family members, those websites are great to get that information from, and we have some of it available at our office too if anyone ever wants to come get it from us.
Yeah, I was going to ask, outside of those sources is there anything else that we can do to kind of wrap up that for people to be that more protected, that much more secure, or feel that much more confident about going on through these things?
You can't be scared. It's just be suspicious online, be vigilant, and don't be afraid of the boogeyman. But if something at all tingles your spidey senses, call us, call friend, family. Just if it smells
Reach
bad,
out.
if it smells bad,
Yeah.
if it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
So
And you sharing that information is only going to help others and keep others from having to go down that route and everything. And I love that you used
100%.
Spidey sense. That was great. That was great, Jim. That was awesome. We're going to let you guys go here as we're wrapping into our final minutes and stuff. But if there was anything you guys wanted to touch on, we didn't get a chance to. I wanted to give a chance. Was there anything that we didn't cover? Did we cover everything? We did our job. We did it, guys.
Awesome.
We did it. Yeah, we had a minute to spare. All right. Now we could spend the next minute just making fun of Sean. We could.
I was making fun of him before I came here. So
Do us a favor though, and say hi to him. Say hi to everybody over there for us. We appreciate you guys and really appreciate the time. And
he's at the bridge dedication today. So
that's where I wanted to wrap up. You were good, Jeremy. Nicely done. I really hope that's going well. I'm really proud of this community doing something like that. And if you don't know what we're talking about, everybody out there, look into the bridge dedication that's going on right now. It's important. And if Sean's not here, there's a good reason. For some reason, he likes talking to me. I don't know why, but he does. He's always great about being here. So if he's not here, there's good cause for it, and that is certainly it. I really hope that's going well. I'm looking forward to seeing that, actually. That'd be great. You guys be safe out there. We appreciate you. Ted Jr., I wish you the best, man, with this career and everything. I hope it goes well. And again, Ted Sr., Jeremy, I love talking to you guys. I'm looking forward to having another conversation very soon. Stay safe out there. We appreciate you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a break right here, play some CBS News, and then Seth will be in here with Over the Back Fence. Take good care of you. Be sure to call him up right here on WFHR, locally grown radio.